And I'd like to formally introduce you all to Justine Gray. Justine is the Director of Membership and Education at the Association of Golf Merchandisers. We're pleased to have her join us today for this session. And Justine, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope you're all having a great President's Day so far, and thank you for taking some time out of your day to attend this educational session. My name is Justine Gray, and again, I'm the Director of Membership and Education at the Association of Golf Merchandisers, and we're so delighted for the opportunity to partner with the Middle Atlantic PGA for this digital education. So today I'm going to be talking about quarterly blueprint for golf shop success. So let's go ahead and dive in. A little bit about the AGM before we get started here. We always like to start our education with our mission at the AGM, which is very simple. It's to elevate retail, enhance relationships, and educate always. The AGM has been the educational voice in golf merchandising since 1989. Do we have any AGM members on the call today? Feel free to raise your hand if you have your camera on or type in the chat that you're a member. Okay, great. I see some hands. Great. Glad to hear it. So always nice to have some AGM members in our audience here. A little bit about me. Beyond being with AGM, I started my career as a merchandiser in golf retail. I was lucky enough to start my golf career at Baltusrol Golf Club in Springfield, New Jersey, where I worked my way up to being the merchandise manager there. I also spent some time at Summit Golf Brands in New York City on the corporate side of the business, and eventually made my way down to Florida. Also spent some time at John's Island Club in Vero Beach, Florida. And I'm lucky enough to be a part of the AGM team, helping educate merchandisers. So, what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to start out with some of the key tasks to ensure a smooth and efficient retail operation. We're going to talk about enhancing your customer satisfaction and relationships, and eventually, how you're going to help shape the leaders of tomorrow in your golf shop. And our goal here is really to learn the key strategies for maintaining an organized, efficient, and customer-focused golf shop for long-term success. So I want you to start thinking about what are things that you do each quarter in your golf shop. These are things that you may not necessarily do every day or every week, but they certainly make an impact when they are a part of your retail operation every quarter, a few times a year. So start thinking about what that will mean to your shop. So, what is the purpose of having this quarterly blueprint? Overall, it's here to create a more smooth and efficient retail operation for you. It should help support greater customer satisfaction and ultimately build better relationships with your customers. It can also be a tool that will help ensure your customers receive consistent service, no matter who may be working at the shop counter that day. So, kind of heightening that level of service across the board that no matter any level of employee that may be working in the shop, they'll get very similar service and experience. And it helps promote proactive management and attention to detail. It's a really great opportunity to train both your retail and golf staff, or truly anyone who is a part of working in the golf shop. It can help them take more ownership of tasks and ultimately grow into bigger roles. As a lot of the tasks we're going to talk about really lend themselves to training opportunities and are really great types of responsibilities to get more entry-level beginner folks involved in. And this training can make a very big difference in their next opportunities, which is really the goal at the end of the day, right? To support folks getting started and help them find their next bigger opportunities. A merchandiser's consistent attention to detail and proactive management throughout the entire year ensures that the shop runs smoothly and efficiently. So let's take your retail operation to the next level and get started here. So, first task I'm going to talk about is probably a bit more of a boring one, so to say, and that's cleaning up your SKUs. This is a really great task to do hand in hand with whenever you're taking your physical inventory. So I know, it's still the beginning of the year. Some of us may be doing our physical inventory or have just done it in January, or you're working on it in your off seasons. So this is a really great time to ensure that your SKUs are up to date. Also, it's a great off-season project to work through in your slower months if you want to work through cleaning up your SKUs or making any changes to them. You always want to ensure that your SKUs are accurate and straightforward to avoid discrepancies. And also being careful in the amount of SKUs you have. I know it's kind of crazy to think about. However, there is sometimes a possibility you could use all of the SKUs in your system depending on which point of sale system you may use. Different ones have different restrictions. So you may use up all your SKUs. Also, if you have too many SKUs in use, it makes everything just entirely more imperative that you accurately ring in merchandise for every single transaction. You really want to do an assessment of what your SKU system looks like and make sure that it supports your current retail needs, which could be very different than they were 5 or 10 years ago. Maybe you need to restructure your SKUs to support your retail operation now and for the future. This is also a great time to deactivate any aged SKUs or unnecessary SKUs of things that you no longer need to have in your system. So, this certainly goes hand in hand with cleaning up your inventory. I recommend doing an inventory audit quarterly if you can. And I like to think of that your physical inventory is really an opportunity for the retail operation to audit your merchandise. Thinking of it beyond just a necessary task that your controller or your finance department is making you do, think of it as an opportunity where you can really see what are those slow selling items. Are there things that need to move into markdowns or promotions to clear out that slow moving stock? How about your shrinkage? You'll be taking a look at your shrinkage through the inventory process. And are there certain categories that you're finding you have higher shrinkage regularly? So maybe that's something you need to address and minimize that because we're always looking to minimize our shrinkage. So, quarterly is a really nice time to do this if you can. I know some facilities do inventory every month, and that can certainly give you more opportunities to look at your inventory. But at the AGM, we recommend conducting a physical inventory quarterly. Um, some folks I know do biannual or monthly, but we recommend quarterly on a consistent basis if you can, if you're able to work towards that. This was a really great picture, I thought, from Terra Vita Golf Club, one of our AGM members. They had their inventory kind of organized in these bins. I love how they have the barcodes on the outside of them with quantities. So, especially if they are taking inventory with scanners, this would make it very simple and easy to kind of go through what they have and have it all ready to go there to be scanned. So, reviewing your upcoming orders. I recommend regularly reviewing any upcoming orders you're expecting in your golf shop. And this will just really help you anticipate your stock arrivals, and hopefully that'll allow you to plan out any displays, promotions, any events that this merchandise may tie into, or even holidays as well. So if you know what deliveries you're getting around Easter and making sure you have the props and the fun things and colors you want to display that with. So, really looking at when things are arriving and making sure you have what you need to support that merchandise when it arrives, whether that's different props to display something that you don't currently have on hand, or a promotion that you're going to tie it in with something going on around the club. So sometimes, of course, there will be orders that do need to be adjusted. So these will hopefully be things that you're perhaps aligning orders with your seasonal trends and your sales data. Ultimately, here, your sales data is your most valuable tool throughout this entire process. And we always recommend working to make adjustments to your orders before canceling them by any possibility that you can. So I kind of see that as three opportunities to make changes, and those would be quantities on the order, the assortment itself, so the styles and SKUs, or the arrival date. So that may mean pushing something further out or moving it forward if you're selling through things quickly. So I always recommend taking any of those three steps that you can before you turn to cancellations, which should really only be a last resort if possible. So this also applies for anything you may have in pre-books, built stock, or hold orders you have placed at perhaps at the beginning of your selling season. Pre-books are really something that you want to monitor throughout the season to ensure that they always reflect your ongoing needs. So I know pre-books can be very tempting to place a big order at the beginning of the year and feel like you're all set to go and don't have to worry about whatever that category or vendor may be. It's really important that you do keep looking on it as your needs may change. Something may come up and you don't sell through things as you expected. So always good to keep an eye on those and make adjustments as you need. This could be a really great task to assign someone on your retail or golf team. Perhaps someone becomes kind of the lead for the glove pre-book, and they're responsible for the counts and keeping an eye on the planned arrival dates and making adjustments as needed. So I see this as a particularly good task that someone could take ownership of. And also, does your staff know what you have coming in pre-book? Keeping them informed of what is arriving, as well as anything you may have placed in built stock or hold merchandise at the beginning of the season with any of your vendor partners. I always think it's a good idea to print out copies of these particular order confirmations or purchase orders somewhere and have it somewhere that all of your staff can see because the season gets busy, we're all worrying about a million different orders and vendors. It can be very easy to forget about some things you may have either pre-booked or have in built stock or that you have on hold. So having it available for your staff to see and understand, which will ultimately just help them better understand your flow and product life cycle of merchandise through your shop. And always keeping in mind if there is a specific date that any of this merchandise needs to be released by, and ensuring that you take advantage of all those opportunities available to you. So again, anticipating stock arrivals. This example, this little spreadsheet I have here was from Belfair Golf Club, and I really like how they have it organized here with both the dates and the items, of course, that are coming in. So this looks like it's mostly shoes and golf bags, some accessories. And I like how they added the holidays in the middle here, which I think is a really nice touch in planning your merchandise, that they have kind of a look at what holidays are coming up and, if they may want to merchandise it in a theme that aligns with that. So even something like they have the Masters on here, Mother's Day and Father's Day, those certainly can be important holidays in the golf shop. So I think that's a really nice angle to think about in your stock planning. I also recommend to consider building either a map or a floor plan to plan out your physical space for your incoming merchandise. So it's really important to remember, when you are placing your orders, there is kind of a finite amount of real estate in your shop for displaying goods, but not only for displaying it when it is for sale, but I also always like to think about that we all have such limited storage space in our golf shop as well. So that's also something to think about if of planning out your space for storage. But, talking about the selling space, I think using tools such as color coding or perhaps numbered zones to identify different areas of the shop or categories of merchandise can be really valuable. Um, Merchandisers, generally speaking, are very visual folks. We're very visually driven. So any tool that is visual in nature, I think can be terrific. Anything you can do that's very easy to understand. So also it's not something that just your merchandise manager or your shop manager is relying on, but something simple and visual enough that everyone in on your team can understand it. Everyone from your seasonal interns and your assistant golf professionals to the head golf professional, that it's in a format that everyone can understand. Hopefully, it's in a location that everyone walks by every day so they can understand and know what's coming in. A calendar format is also a great way to outline your upcoming arrivals by months or by weeks. And I always recommend pictures and colors instead of just style numbers. So if a style number is ABCD123, all of your staff may not know what that piece is, even if your merchandise manager does and knows the SKUs by heart of some of your top products. Having just a picture of that item or just writing, navy Donald Ross polo shirt so that folks can understand it a little bit easier, no matter where they're at in your retail and golf operation. So I have a great example here of kind of this approach from the folks at Baltusrol Golf Club. They utilize these really great kind of simple pictures of the groups, the fashion groups they have coming in of apparel. And it's organized by month. So I believe this was all kind of what was coming in a particular month. They have the arrival date on it and the vendor, and then these simple pictures. So very easy to understand. So if Mr. Smith comes into the golf shop and asks, one of your interns, oh, when are you getting your next stunning group in? Instead of having to chase down the shop manager and leave them a note and have them call the member back and try to reconnect with the member to answer that question. Hopefully, you have this displayed in a location that then your intern can easily say, oh, Mr. Smith, we have some dunning coming in on May 1st. It looks like a great blue and orange group. We can let you know when it's here. So it kind of takes that extra step out. And again, it helps everyone in the retail operation understand what's coming in and when, and generally understand kind of your entire flow of merchandise. And they have this displayed in an area that everyone walks by every day. So hopefully they're absorbing what they're walking by. So paired with that, they also have a map displayed. So I know that this is a little bit small to see, but they use sticky notes to move things around the map of their shop. So as you'll see in the poster they kind of have up here, they have numbered zones for all of the different fixtures and locations around the shop. And this was born out of hosting the 2023 KPMG Women's Tournament at their shop and having such a overwhelming flow of merchandise that building a map really worked for them at that event, and the staff enjoyed it so much that they implemented it for going forward and continued to use it. So they use these numbered zones and then they use different colored sticky notes so they can easily move things around in the shop. I believe they have, one section is things that are ready to go onto the floor when a space is available. So things that they have received are tagged, ready to go once the time comes. And then they can easily move things around the shop and see where there is space and kind of visualize it that way. And I think different colors for different types of merchandise is great. I think that this is really terrific also because a sticky note, you can just pick it up and they can throw it out when that group is gone and keeping their map intact there. All right, so moving on to special orders. It's always good to keep an eye on special orders that inevitably, no matter what, a few always end up falling through the cracks. So, keeping an eye on however you monitor and track your special orders, whether this may be through a digital tool or maybe use an old-fashioned special order binder, however you organize them. Golf Genius Golf Shop is a really great tool for tracking special order status and sending member notifications. So it allows you to automatically send emails or maybe even texts as well to your members, letting them know when their order has arrived. Always follow up with vendors on items that haven't arrived. So no matter what, you're going to have those few things that were promised to arrive on January 15th and you still don't have them. So always checking in and having, that communication with your members as well to keep them updated on its arrival. This will help maintain trust and satisfaction with them overall. It's always good to try to expedite shipping if possible in these situations if orders are late. So perhaps requesting an expedited shipping option to the vendor or perhaps directly shipping things to members' homes if possible. And here's a quick look at what the Golf Genius Golf Shop tool looks like. This was from North Shore Country Clubs. They have their orders placed and orders delivered, organized in a really easy to understand format. So, lost and found. If you have a lost and found in your shop, work to clean this out, hopefully quarterly. I know we always end up with odds and ends in our shops and just clutter that we generally want to eliminate from our selling space. If it's appropriate, you can consider donating unclaimed items at the end of the quarter. So, if you do first tee donations at your club, that could be a good opportunity. If you can find who these things belong to, always working to return things to members' lockers. If there's a more centrally located lost and found, perhaps in your clubhouse. And just overall, we want to work to have as little clutter as possible in our golf shops. And what about lost and found clubs? I know for some folks, the golf shop is involved in that piece, and for some folks, they may not be. So just knowing what your responsibility falls in the lost and found clubs. Managing merchandise that's placed on hold. So when I say merchandise on hold, I mean things that your members have selected in your shop. Maybe some of them have been paid for, maybe some of them have not, but that they've asked you to put on hold. And I know I worked in shops that kind of had the dreaded on hold drawer that always seemed to, no matter how many times we worked to clear it out, it always ended up with odds and ends in it. So, if you at the end of the quarter have goods that your members or your customers have not paid for that are in this drawer, I think you can absolutely put them back out for sale at the end of the quarter. I think at that point, they can absolutely be sold. However, if you have things that have been paid for and have a member's name on them and they've already made that transaction, of course, first step would be to try to work to get it in their locker if they have one, and giving the member a call for a friendly reminder that they have their merchandise in the shop. And you could also offer to ship this merchandise to their home to complete the transaction if needed, especially if you have seasonal members who have maybe left town or out of state, giving them that offer to ship things to just kind of complete the transaction there. And then this kind of goes hand in hand with your unclaimed special orders. So, despite every effort I know we may make to deliver special orders to members' lockers, there are inevitably going to be orders that remain unclaimed in the golf shop. Always reach out with friendly reminders to these customers. And again, I think making those shipping solutions available to them can help eliminate some of these things hanging around longer than they need to. So you could say, Mr. Smith, not to worry. I know you're traveling. Let's just ship it to your home. No trouble at all. And just do what you can to get that special order in their hands with the least amount of work possible. So, your unreturned demo clubs. So, you want to keep an eye on any demo clubs that have been out of the shop for an extended period of time. And for everyone's shop, what an extended period of time means might be a little bit different, right? So, for some folks, it might be a week that their members don't typically hang on to demo clubs much longer than that. For some, it might be 2 or 3 weeks. So, just understanding what is an average length of time your members typically do hold on to demo clubs for, and what is too long at your facility. So monitor the return of your demo clubs using things such as digital management tools and apps. I know there's a bunch of different options out there, even things that are apps on your phone or tools you can use at your shop counter. And these can really help you manage your demo inventory. And some of them even send out automatic reminders to your borrowers to return demo clubs, which is pretty cool. And I know some of them help you print out barcodes so you can easily scan your clubs. I remember when we used to have paper tags on golf clubs like 7, 8 years ago. So it's nice to see that now there are barcodes to make things really simple. And you can also do the same for rental sets. I think having barcodes on these could be another nice way to implement that technology as well. So if you kind of get beyond the point where hopefully you're using a system that can help you send automatic reminders to your members, but if you still have some things that are becoming pretty long overdue, contact those members to try to recover the items. Inevitably, I know we end up with kind of our lost demo clubs. And sometimes they just end up misplaced. So, are they in the bag room? Maybe they're in your lost and found, the club repair area, rental sets. So, just keeping an eye on everything ending up in its proper home every quarter. And your demo club retention rate might be something good to look at quarterly. So, that might be a good metric to take a look at every quarter, a few times a year, and see how you're doing. And hopefully, using one of those digital tools can help you retain better on your demo clubs at the end of the year. So, replenishing your back end supplies, so all the things that help you and your team do your jobs. Pretty straightforward. Your printer paper, your ink. I know no one wants to run out of ink right before a member guest or a big tournament. I've been there, it's not fun. Your labels, your receipt paper, shipping supplies, your boxes, labels, packing tape, packing peanuts. I always recommend anything that you get in your shop that comes with packing peanuts or bubble wrap, hold on to it. You will always need more than you think you need to ship something breakable. So always hold on to anything like that in your shop to reuse it. Your shaft labels, bag tags, if your shop is responsible for ordering those, any additional golf supplies that fall under your umbrella in the golf shop. And then we have our customer facing supplies. So your shopping bags, what wrapping supplies do you need? Like wrapping paper, gift boxes, especially before the holiday season, making sure that you have what you need. Gift card materials, if you'd have custom printed gift cards. How about other golf items like tees, scorecards that you might have available in your shop? How are those reordered? Is that a golf shop task? And kind of just knowing what you need to be responsible for ordering in your shop. Your props and hangers. So you always just want to keep an eye on any props, your fixtures, your display tables, and your hangers for wear and tear and replace them as needed. You always want to be sure that your visual merchandising is up to your facility standards. So no one would want to see a beautiful shop with really worn out hangers and props that's not helping your merchandise look its best. And things often just need replacing from normal wear and tear usage. Your hangers are getting used every single day, and while they may last a long time, they do have a lifespan that comes to an end, and you do have to replace them at a certain point. This could be a really great category to assign to perhaps an entry-level team member who works in your shop for them to kind of be the lead on props and hangers, and they can be responsible for making sure that everything maintains in good condition. When things need to be replaced, they're responsible for placing those orders. Perhaps they're the one if you want to try something new for a fun visual display for a holiday or a special event, that they're the one kind of the lead for finding and sourcing those props. So I think this would be a very fun category to have ownership of in a shop. All right, now I'm going to talk about markdowns, which is my favorite retail topic. So, your markdowns. Having year-round markdowns in your golf shop are essential to a robust retail business, no matter the sales volume. So this can be implemented and scaled no matter if you sell $250,000 in your shop a year or $3 million a year. I've seen it in both sizes of shops, and it's absolutely achievable. I recommend utilizing a tiered markdown system. So, what does this mean? This means that instead of a big clearance 70% off everything sale at the end of your season, that you have a tiered markdown system in place all year round or for the entire length of your selling season. So that means that you always have markdown goods available. We recommend having a men's markdown rack and a ladies markdown rack. This is a picture of our men's markdown rack at Baltusrol, and you'll see it looks like a robust selection of goods. And when I say tiered markdowns, I mean beginning with 20% off and using colored stickers to denote that. And then when you have goods that have sat at that 20% off that continue to not move, they're still kind of hanging around, even though hopefully that 20% off stimulates some sales, then you would go down to 40% off. And then hopefully that'll help clear out most of the things that are hanging around. But if you have some stragglers, some things that just don't resonate with your customers for whatever reason, going down to 60% off. We don't recommend going much lower than that if you can, really just to help you hold on to a little bit of profitability in your goods. So that's what I mean by tiered, starting with 20% and working your way down a little bit at a time. And so, what are the things that would go on this markdown rack? These are things that are aged inventory. These are things that are maybe a last of. So, maybe a collection sold through really fast, except for a couple stragglers. One particular print maybe didn't sell well, that you would move to markdowns. Or maybe something sold through and you only have an extra large left. It's an orphan, it's one of its kind. You would move it to markdowns. While also being mindful, you generally need to make space for new things coming in, right? So no matter what, everything eventually will need to move on from to make room for fresh goods. I know you're all probably starting to think about and get ready for spring in your shops. So we need to make room for what's coming, what's new, and eventually things will move to markdown. So, evaluating your markdowns. This is another really great task to assign someone in your shop to kind of manage the markdowns and be responsible not only for pulling things from the shop floor that are ready to be marked down, marking them down, putting stickers on them with their 20% off price and hopefully a brightly colored sticker so folks will notice it, and then merchandising them into your golf shop. So this would be a really nice task to have someone on your retail team oversee, and they could really evaluate how things are performing from this. And avoid backlog by regularly replenishing and marking down your merchandise. So your markdown rack can tell you a lot about a golf shop. So analyzing this data and identifying trends can really inform you for future buying decisions. So having this person who's maybe responsible for overseeing your markdown program, making notes of things such as what vendors are ending up on your markdown rack, what sizes are ending up on your markdown rack. So perhaps a particular vendor, the collection was orange and your members don't like orange, and so that ends up on your markdown rack. So keeping an eye, maybe that vendor just had an off season or an off year, or that color just didn't resonate in this case. But if you find month after month, season after season, that particular vendor is ending up, pretty much most of the collections are ending up on your markdown rack, that may tell you it's time to reevaluate its role in your kind of matrix of brands, and perhaps you may want to reallocate funds elsewhere or maybe try a different approach with them. And definitely this is something you can work with your rep on, but if they are ending up on the markdown rack continuously, it may be time to make a change in some way and maybe take a break from a vendor. Same thing with sizes. So I know I worked in a shop where everything on the markdown rack was a size small and a size extra large. So what did that tell us? That told us that our members were buying mediums and large, and we were selling out of those, but we were always ending up with small and extra large left. So that meant that we needed to adjust our sizing matrices. So when we placed orders for men's apparel in this case, we needed to spend a lot less of our funds on small and extra large and reallocate that to having more mediums and larges bought. We absolutely still needed to have some small and some extra large, but less than what we previously had been buying. And eventually we got things into a better flow and assortment so that we did have just a little bit of each size on your markdown rack, which is a sign of a healthy merchandise operation. Healthy markdown program is having a little bit of every size on that assortment. So, with your markdowns, we also recommend just treating them as another department in your shop. So, this means replenishing it and maintaining it to the same standards of all of your goods. So, this means I love how in this example here they have wooden hangers for their markdown. So, they're using the same hangers as they have for the rest of their shop instead of using plastic hangers. Again, I like that folks when they have them just merchandised as another local area of their golf shop. It's not a rolling rack that only comes out with a big clearance sign on it with plastic hangers, really elevating it so it feels like part of your shop. And it's just another department that's given the same care and same attention, giving it a little bit of real estate in one of your permanent fixtures, perhaps, even if that's in the back of the shop, that's great, but that it feels more permanent piece in your retail operation. And again, this is a great another task to assign a team member to be responsible for maintaining the markdowns and tracking the trends that they're seeing. All right, re-tagging. So do a sweep of your sales floor to identify any items that are in need of re-tagging. This is really good to do before you take a physical inventory, especially if you're using scanners, as no one wants to have to stop their inventory scanning to re-tag something, figure out what the item is. So that'll just really save you time to do a sweep of tags prior to taking your inventory. And then you'll make sure that when you're scanning, you end up with the most accurate physical inventory possible. This is also important when it comes to maintaining accurate pricing. So retag as needed to prevent pricing errors and making adjustments when prices change, so when prices increase essentially. So you want to make sure that's reflected if you have some Navy women zero restriction vests on the shop floor and you receive a replenishment of it and the price has gone up, say $5 this year, and you increase the price, print your tags. You want to make sure that you update the price on those that are already on the shop floor, reflecting the old price. Because when Mrs. Smith comes in and picks up one that has the lower price, and then you go to ring her in and it's the higher price, that could cause a little bit of confusion for your member. So making sure when price increases happen, which now is a time of year when they do here at the start of the year, of making those changes and making sure they're reflected accurately. Same thing if you have an online store, updating the prices there as well so that everything is the correct and current price. I know it depends on what type of point of sale system you use. I know I've used some where batch retags were easier than just doing one-off printing of individual tags. So this would be a great thing to kind of collect over the week, over probably not as spread out as a month, but however often you're going to collect them. And this might be a good another task to assign someone to be the retag leader. And maybe they have ownership of that, and maybe they do it during slow periods in the golf shop. Or maybe the whoever opens on Thursday mornings is responsible for printing out the retag. So another great task to help someone learn. Great way to learn how to use the point of sale system a little bit better as well there. Checking in with your other department heads. So, as the merchandise manager or shop manager, visit with other department heads at your facility. I think it's really important to learn what events they may have coming up in their respective areas of the club that you may not be aware of or just not exposed to being in the golf shop. Thinking about, is there anything you can support them with from a retail perspective or opportunities to collaborate perhaps? Staying engaged with your facility as a whole is a really important key to success, and this will ultimately lead to greater harmony and a collaborative work environment across departments. Additionally, not only learning about what they have going on in their areas of the club, but sharing what you have going on in the golf shop. So, are there any retail initiatives or policies you should communicate to other departments? Such as, are there specific hours that employees can shop? Is there an upcoming staff sale that you want to make sure everyone in the club knows about? Will you be closed for a holiday or maybe closed to take inventory on a specific day you want to make sure everyone knows? Really anything that they should know about to share with their internal teams. So overall, at a glance, in creating your checklist or your blueprint, there's three things that you want to focus on while keeping in mind that you want to make sure that this serves both you and your entire team's needs. And this may change. What your checklist and blueprint looks like one year may be different than next. So, kind of the first piece of it is that proactive inventory and order management. So, that means regularly auditing your inventory and reviewing what orders you have coming in to ensure that your shop remains well stocked, organized, and prepared to meet your customer demand, while ultimately minimizing any discrepancies in your inventory and point of sale system and excess stock. Here's another example from Belfair Golf Club of their apparel arrivals. So I really like that they have their men's and ladies and separate tables here, just kind of laid out by arrival dates. They have the brand, the date, and it looks like they have the color, which I think again, very easy for someone to understand that it just says Holderness and Bourne 2-1 teal navy. Navy. Very easy for someone to conceptually understand. And then the second piece is your customer-focused communication and service. So maintaining clear communication with customers regarding things such as special orders, unclaimed items in the shop, and delays. This will help foster trust and satisfaction, which will ultimately lead to stronger customer relationships and repeat business. And the third piece is your cross-department collaboration. So fostering a collaborative environment with other departments enhances employee morale and creates new opportunities for sales and customer engagement. This example here is from the country club at Mirasol in Florida. They had a demo event out kind of in the short game area with some food and beverage, which always helps draw out folks to attend. And the merchandiser there, she said she got to see so many members who don't typically come into the golf shop. So just having something in a different environment, a different location, getting to see members in a different area of the club, I think this could create a lot of great bigger opportunities beyond just this fitting event. Maybe they will be more likely to stop into the shop now, or just a chance to get to know different members of the facility as well. So, want to go a step further? We have one more category we're going to talk about here. And this is your staff training and engagement. So, a couple pieces with this. Of course, product knowledge is one of the most important pieces. So, conducting training sessions to keep your staff updated on new merchandise and new operational procedures. Regular team meetings, these of course really foster that camaraderie and belonging, even as something as quick as a 15-minute meeting can really make a difference, especially if you have folks on your team who don't work in the shop every day. So if, say, your assistant golf professionals are only in the shop once a week, once every few weeks, and we all know a lot in a shop can change in a week. You may have completely moved around the floor. You may have brought in a new brand that's out on the floor that they've never seen before. So I think that's also important to think about. What are the things the folks that are going to be working in the shop that but aren't there every day? Did you move the shop around? So you need to kind of walk them through where things are now located. Is there a new brand on the floor that they aren't aware of? So keeping those pieces in mind as well. Rotating duties and responsibilities. Of course, this isn't appropriate for every job title and role necessarily, but this variety can really help keep the environment fresh and dynamic and ultimately helping prevent burnout. And you never know, a team member may discover a new area or role to explore in their career that might interest them. Your team building, organizing activities outside of work to enhance team morale and engagement quarterly, recognizing and rewarding achievements that folks may have, encouraging your team to seek out opportunities for professional development and continuing education. So, attending seminars like this. I know we have so much education at the AGM, so any way to get involved and just encourage that camaraderie, not only with your team at your facility, but also with other golf professionals, other merchandisers in your area, or across the country in digital events such as this, as well as fostering mentorship opportunities at your facility. I know some folks may have a formal mentorship program in place, but even those that are more informal as well. So, training your staff for ownership of some of the tasks and things we talked about today. So I find that these routine quarterly tasks that are on your calendar are really prime opportunities for your staff to take ownership of various areas of the shop operation. This can really help these individuals become your resident expert in a specific area, which is kind of exciting for someone getting started. So, this might mean your markdowns, perhaps your demo clubs, maybe fixtures and props. I think there's a lot of different ways you could kind of take this. Assigning an area to a staff member can help both their motivation and confidence in growing responsibilities. And it's an opportunity to shape the golf retail leaders of tomorrow. I think it's so exciting that someone could be the markdown leader on your team. And then when they're interviewing for their next job, they get to share all about this amazing markdown program that they were a part of in their current role. So, how can you help them expand their retail expertise before they head into their next opportunity, right? So, your quarterly blueprint. Addressing these tasks each quarter will ensure that your golf shop remains organized, efficient, and customer focused. By staying proactive and attentive to every aspect of your operation, you set the stage for sustained success throughout the entire year. Implementing these tasks into your calendar to maintain a thriving golf shop. So maybe this is a shared calendar that your entire team has access to. So everyone knows that this is the day we work on markdowns. This is the day we're going to check in on our demo clubs and so on. So maybe that's a shared digital calendar if you all work off of something like that. Or maybe it's a paper calendar that's hanging up in the office for everyone to see. However, your team shares and manages responsibilities such as that. And hopefully, this blueprint will ultimately help keep your customers coming back year over year. So, I would love to hear from anyone today. What is on your checklist? Are there any categories I missed, things you want to share that you do perhaps every quarter in your golf shop that really make a difference? I'd love to hear what they are. Feel free to type in the chat or unmute yourself if you have any you'd like to share today before we wrap up. All right, I'll keep going, but feel free to type in the chat if you want to share any. Any other questions for me? Questions on the AGM or about anything we talked about today? I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have.
As individuals are typing any questions that they may have, I just want to thank you, Justine. Looks like David, you were trying to type something, but it got cut off. So David Marshall, if I see it now. The question is, what's a good markup percent?
So there's a couple different ones, but one that I'll talk about that the AGM recommends is we call it California Keystone, where it's Keystone Plus, which is pretty popular. So that's where it's not, Keystone is where you simply double your wholesale cost. So your California Keystone is you start with that Keystone and then plus. So for some folks, they have a plus that they add for soft goods and a different amount for hard goods. So it may be, it might be Keystone plus 10%. It might be Keystone plus 5%. So just kind of varies there. I know Keystone is popular as well. I think Keystone Plus gives you a little extra wiggle room there. Those are two of the most popular ones, but everyone's shop is a little bit different.
Thank you. Looks like we got another question from TJ. He asked, do you have any suggestions for having a successful trunk show?
That's a good question. I think working with the vendor is probably the most valuable piece of leaning on them and their expertise of making the event the best you can. Absolutely, the promotion piece, promoting it out to your members, however you communicate events to them. So making sure that everyone knows about it, knows where it is, and when it's happening. I know it's always, there might be a trunk show and a member comes by and says, "Oh, I didn't know you were having a trunk show today." So I think communicating as early as possible in as many ways that you communicate to your members, whether that's email blasts or a newsletter, what have you, and then leaning on the vendor because that's what they're there for, is to help make the event successful and they know the brand best. So really collaborating with them together for a joint event.
Great. Uh, Jeff sent in a question. Can you share the name of an app to use for demo clubs? And
So
go ahead.
I see Haley here said what I was going to write, which is the Golf Genius Golf Shop. It's the best one I've seen in use. I know there's some other options out there, but that's absolutely what I would recommend. It allows you to send those automated messages to your members. It has a lot of great functions, being able to see your demo inventory. It's a really, really nice program.
Looks like Jeffrey sent in a suggestion just to try and get professional staff involved. They like to assign each assistant a display to run with. But then Richard Shepard just uh, has a question about best practices for marketing ideas, suggestions, question mark.
Richard, do you mean like for how to reach them, like for via email or social media, or is that kind of what you're thinking, how to reach them? Yes. Okay. I think knowing your members. So I know that some clubs still, social media is still kind of growing in the private club space in particular. So I think just knowing your members and knowing what they respond to. So if you know email is the best way to get a hold of them, I think leaning into that. But if you're finding that folks are if your club's, members are getting younger, then social media might be the way to lean into. I am not a marketing expert by any means. I am a more of a merchandiser buyer side of things, but at the AGM we do have a lot of really great marketing seminars and things of that you might want to check out. Ken Morton Jr. writes an amazing marketing book. He is a former president of the AGM and he teaches some of our courses in our Certified Retail Manager program. And he does a lot of great education focused on marketing, so that might be a good resource for you. And he's also at a public golf course, so that could be a good fit to check out.
And if anybody else has any other questions, you're welcome to unmute yourself or type them into the chat. But I see that Justine has shared her contact information, so that's awesome. Thank you for doing that, Justine.
Absolutely, absolutely. Happy to share. My information is here, as well as our main AGM contact information. If you'd like to learn more, feel free to scan this QR code if you'd like to learn more about becoming an AGM member. We'd be delighted to have you. We host weekly education and events, networking, lots of things for our AGM members. So we'd be delighted to see you there.
Well, thank you, Justine. See everybody's messaging in. Thank you. We'll be on for just another minute or two, but thank you again for your time. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to Justine directly. So thank you.
Yes, thank you everyone for joining for this session today. It was so nice to be here with all of you, and I hope to see you on other webinars and events and other education in the future. So thanks so much everyone for having me. Take care.